Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dauster and Deshaun podcast here on the field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dauster. Of course, I'm joined once again by my lovely co-host, the one and only Deshaun Butler, former All-American at West Virginia University. We have plenty to talk about with the Mountaineers. We'll get to that in a bit. That's what we call a tease in the podcasting industry. Deshaun, how you doing, man? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good, man. Got some quality time in with the kids as usual. Tons of video games, tons of basketball, tons of family board games that I've been required to play on the weekends. So,
what's your go-to board game?
Monopoly. I'm a Monopoly guy. Yeah. They lose every time, and they can't figure out how I win. They can't get it. It's tough.
We haven't reached the board game level quite yet. We do a lot of puzzles though. And my son is in this. Yeah, he's in this mode where it's like he wants to do a puzzle, and then he takes it all apart, and then he does the same puzzle over again. So we'll be sitting there for like an hour and a half doing the same puzzle over and over.
Is it those bigger puzzles that like the kid puzzles, or are we talking about like mid-level to like adult, like close to adult?
All of them. Like, so he's got the big ones that are like 40 pieces, but he's also got like a 200 piece dinosaur puzzle that he'll just sit there and he'll knock the whole thing out. He's 5. He loves puzzles. He's really good at puzzles.
Congratulations.
I mean, look, I'll tell you this much: like, he ain't a genius. He does a lot of really dumb stuff.
Nah, trust me.
He's good at puzzles. All right, before we get into this podcast, I do have to let you guys know about the official odds provider of the Field of 68 Media Network, DraftKings Sportsbook. The 2021 college basketball season is here, and teams around the country took off the offseason to retool and revamp and are ready to hit the court. In fact, Deshaun, they already have. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, has rolled out another of their can't-miss offers. Trying DraftKings Sportsbook is easy. So what are you waiting for? Get in now on all of the action. To celebrate the return of hoops, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new players 100-1 odds on any featured matchup this week. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 single, Deshaun, on any of the featured matchups they have this week. And if your team wins, you cash $100. That's $1 to win $100. That ain't bad.
I like those odds.
Yeah, they're not bad odds, right? So while we are all excited for the return of basketball, don't forget we're sitting here, we're watching the end of NFL Red Zone, we're watching the end of football on a Sunday, and we have the playoffs coming up. There's still plenty of things beyond basketball to wager on. So go now to the DraftKings Sportsbook app for all of your daily odds boosts and find ways to maximize the money that you want to bet. DraftKings is safe, it's secure, it's reliable. Trust me, I know. I've been using it for about 2 years now. And it makes it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. I know this for a fact, Deshaun, because you want to know what I do? Here's my game plan. When I win a couple bets in a row, I take some of that money out, some of those winnings out, and I throw it in the bank because I know if I leave it in my DraftKings Sportsbook account, I'm going to make dumb bets. And the worst thing you could do as a gambler is make dumb bets. So get that money out, put it in your bank account, cash your winnings. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code FIELD68 when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any of the featured matchups this week. That's FIELD68. That promo code for new players will get you a shot at $100 on any featured matchup this week for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania residents only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or if you're in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. All right. Before we talk about some of the fun stuff that happened this weekend and some of the enjoyable basketball from this weekend, Deshaun, we do have to talk a little bit about Keyontae Johnson, the situation that he's dealing with. For people that weren't paying attention or that weren't around a TV over the weekend, he is an All-American and a future pro from Florida. 4 minutes into the game against Florida State on Saturday, he passed out at midcourt. He fell face down into the floor. He was taken off the floor on a stretcher. He's been in the hospital ever since. We're recording this on a Sunday night. And the most recent update we got is that he is still critical but stable, which by my non-medical understanding is that means he's not out of the woods yet, but they are confident that he is not going to be. They're hopeful we're not going to see a turn for the worst. So that, at the very least, is good news. But I do know that his family is heading down to see him. Mike White is staying in Tallahassee at the hospital with Keyontae.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's an awful situation. Our colleague Jeff Goodman reported earlier that Keyontae had tested positive for the coronavirus in June when he returned to campus from over the summer. But to be clear, there is no indication as of now that anything that happened with testing positive for COVID and what happened with him on Saturday. It's a horrible situation to be in, man. I don't know if you've ever dealt with something like that, seeing a teammate or a player pass out, but it's just, I can't imagine what those players are going through.
Yeah, man, it's not a fun scenario. One of my teammates that I had in Jerusalem, who played at Baylor, Joe Akil, he had a scenario where he would have like some episodes where he would get worked up and he would pass out. So it's very scary stuff to be around, especially for the player. I mean, all we can do from the show, especially, I would say, is wish him well, man. Wish him back to full health, and prayers to him and his family. And hopefully, we get to see him out there, if not on the court, just, being able to be around his team and be around his family and just be safe. We love the game, but we don't love to see, people get hurt from it or do any type of bodily harm to themselves from the game. Like, it's a game at the end of the day. So.
Yeah. And, what really makes me feel for him is I don't know how he can continue a basketball career regardless of what happens. If you know that you have something going on with your heart that causes you to pass out like this, and as of right now, he's been in critical condition for 36 hours. Right? If you know that you have that condition, I don't know how a basketball team can justify having you play. Right? So. If nothing else, like assuming the best case scenario, hopefully the best case scenario for Keyontae is he comes out of this, but I think we saw the end of that kid's career on Saturday, and it's awful, dude. Like, to have it go away that quick. He is a guy, he would have been an NBA player, right? He was an All-American this year. He was the best player on Florida's team. And he would have been an NBA player. And to see that likely get taken away, it really, really sucks. And, I also think that it's important to note, and it's important to say that we haven't seen like any video come out of him. We haven't seen like the Florida basketball Twitter account post a video of Keyontae saying, "Hey guys, it's me. I'm in the hospital. Like I'm working to get better." He's still in critical condition, which tells me like he ain't out of the woods yet. And it's something that I think we need to monitor beyond the obvious and the health and the well-being of a 21-year-old that just wants to play basketball, right? Yeah. Because if a link is proven between what happened with Keyontae Johnson on the floor on Saturday and the fact that he had the coronavirus previously, then like that could be it for the college basketball season. That could be it for the college football season. That could be it for sports as a whole. And I just think that there's too much. We can't speculate it right now. And I don't want to say too much. Exactly, I don't want to go down that road, but it's certainly something where we are going to have to monitor this, because this was always what the concern was. If you remember back in like August when we were talking about, okay, I don't think we can play football this year. I don't think we're going to have a Big Ten football season. The Big Ten shut their season down. The Pac-12 shut it down. And there was the thought that was going to be it for all college sports. It was because of the concerns about heart disease, specifically myocarditis, which is like the enlargement of the walls of the heart. Exactly. For people that had dealt with COVID and the coronavirus. And there were all different studies that came out, and all of this kind of scientific, I don't want to say mumbo jumbo, but it was like we had that week where it was nothing just but like a wall of studies coming at you. And it was really difficult to parse what was real, what was bad study, what was bad science, what was, I don't want to say fake news, but people picking and choosing exactly what they wanted to say.
Exactly.
But it was clear that this was a risk and a potential long-term side effect. I don't want to say side effect, a long-term impact of contracting this virus. And if it's something, if that gets linked to what happened with Keyontae, like this thing gets a whole hell of a lot scarier, because there have been a lot of basketball players and a lot of football players that have tested positive for this virus. So
yeah, most definitely. And that's the scary thing. It's just that you don't know the implications of what can happen in the future. So hopefully what we're doing at the moment is safe. And we want to make sure we continue to do all the things we're doing. When I say we, I'm talking about the universities and the teams and everybody that's working with the teams to, follow the protocol, make sure all these players are social distancing when they're like, back at their homes and so on and so forth, just doing your part, because the last thing we need is to lose a basketball player to something like this. And it won't do anything but hurt everybody at the end of the day. It'll hurt the game, of course. It'll hurt the players and their families and their friends and their teammates and everybody that's around. So just do your part. If you are listening, if you're a fan of our show, make sure you guys go out there, do your part. Make sure the players do their parts when you see them, and just take care of each other. It's very simple stuff.
Yeah. And so I think that it's hard for me. Like I've kind of put up this block, right? And I don't know if you've done the same thing, but there's very much a part of me that understands how risky it is, and to a point almost how silly it is that we are still playing these games when you have these unpaid amateurs out there that are doing this more or less because we got to make sure that the NCAA continues to exist. As somebody that hates the way that the NCAA is structured, like I understand that I'm being hypocritical when I sit here and I enjoy these games and I spend all day getting excited watching college basketball on a Saturday, or I get fired up for like the top 10 matchups that we had last week. But I also like, you got to have a cognitive dissonance, right? And I've been very open about the fact that it's like, yes, I understand that there's all these dangers, but I'm going to choose to look past them because I know this is something that like a lot of these athletes need. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the kid whose father had passed away.
Yeah,
and 2 days later hit the game-winning shot. Like that moment is probably something that was better for him. Like there's been a huge discussion, and I'm not going to go down the road of talking about the Coach K stuff. Like we don't need to get into that. Like that's too much for right now. It's also like not everything that Coach K said was wrong. And part of it is like the mental health aspect on these kids gets being isolated and staying in hotels and not being able to have any kind of experience. And like I've talked to coaches where the players are not allowed to socialize outside of practice. So like you don't have team dinners, you don't have team bonding sessions. Like you're not sitting there hanging out with like 9 of your teammates playing video games until 2 in the morning. Like you don't get that student athlete experience. So I understand like all sides of this, and it's such a complicated argument. But for me, I was saying to myself, like, look, I'm going to kind of ignore that because I know that it's what these kids want to do. Right. But like after seeing what happened with Keyontae, like I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, well, do we have to protect them from themselves? Like, do we have to say like, if you've tested positive for COVID and there's a possibility that you have like, you're dealing with myocarditis and something like what happened to Keyontae could happen to you. Like, do we need to shut it all down? I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't have the answers. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have all like the medical knowledge that you need to be able to make decisions like that. But I think we need to have that conversation nationally. And I think especially if what happened with Keyontae is determined to be linked to the fact that he had coronavirus previously. So I don't know. It's just such a downer. And I could not believe that they played that game.
If anything, I feel like, you see people get hurt and you keep the game going. I don't know. I just felt like there was a big damper on that. And I tuned in late, and you can just see the player. Like, I mean, I don't know about Florida State, but you can tell Florida was like hit.
Florida State was too, because they had a player. Remember Michael Oho? he played at Florida State from 2013 to
All right,
2017,
it's a throwback.
and he died in August. He had the same thing that happened to Keyontae. Well, I don't know if it was the same thing, but he passed out while he was in a workout when he was playing in Serbia. I think he was with was it Partizan Belgrade? No, Red Star. He was with Red Star.
Red Star.
He was playing with Red Star, and he collapsed during a workout in August, and he passed away, and he was 27 years old. And that was a guy that played for Florida State for Leonard Hamilton for 5 years. So now Leonard Hamilton sees this happen on the floor, and to give everyone involved credit, like they left the decision. Ham left the decision up to Mike White. Mike White left the decision up to his players. Like you can actually see on the broadcast, if you go back and watch it, you can see the referee talk to Leonard, that referee go and talk to Mike White, and then Mike White go and talk to his players, and the players decided that they wanted to play. So like, okay, I get it. You want to play, but it's still, I don't know how you do that. I don't understand how you can see a teammate go down and get stretched off the court and continue playing. It just, I don't know. Everything about the situation is just so depressing and such a downer. And I don't know. You got anything else to add, or should we move on to talk about hoops?
Yeah, let's move on and talk about hoops. Once again, our prayers are with the family and just with everybody involved, man. This is nothing we want to see happen. So, all
right. So with that in mind, it is time for the Monday Overreactions podcast. And my first overreaction for you, and the way that we're going to structure this, guys, is I'm going to come up with an overreaction, and Deshaun is going to react to my overreaction. Okay. So here's my first one. And look, show everybody the t-shirt you got on right now.
What is this? These are just clothes.
Yeah. Is it a West Virginia t-shirt? Yeah. You got your West Virginia shirt
Jesus.
on. Yes. He's got his West Virginia gear on.
Apologies.
He played at West Virginia.
It's a great place.
Went to a Final Four with West Virginia. He played for Bob Huggins. So this is my overreaction after seeing what West Virginia did to Richmond. If the Mountaineers shoot anywhere near the way that they did in the first half against Richmond, they are going to win the national title. How do you feel about that one?
I am all for my Mountaineers winning a national title. What did we shoot today? We shot 40. We're shooting higher than 40% at one point in the first half. If we can shoot to the 50s like we were shooting, obviously I don't think there is any team in the country that can match up with us. We do so much. So
to give you specifics, you shot 66% in the first half. You were 6 and 9 from 3 in the first half, and you made your last 10 shots of the half. It was ridiculous. It was you scored 29 points in the last 7 minutes of the first half. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was one of the best shooting you'll ever see from West Virginia.
McBride, once again, your point, and I'll give you some credit for granted what I've been telling you. So that's how nice I am. That's how nice of a guy I am. But McBride, to your point, when McBride plays the way he did today, especially in that first half where he just ripped off, like, I want to say 10, 12, like, there's nothing that many people can do. Like, if he's going to shoot the ball the way he did today, if Taz Sherman's going to come off the bench and shoot the ball the way he did today, if McNeil is going to shoot the ball the way he shot today, like, what can you do? McCade came off before Deuce came back into the game and went crazy. McCade came off the bench and knocked down 2 threes. So when we start getting the majority of our guys to come in, and the wings, I'm talking about, in the guards, and they can come out there and knock jump shots down. I mean, it's just similar to how this is a stretch. I'm not saying these guys are similar. These teams are not similar in any case, style of play or anything. But the same way how Iowa shoots the ball and it opens the paint up for our guy Luka Garza to go out there and do what he needs to do. If these guys shoot the ball 50%, they shot 65 in the first half. They can shoot the ball 50% and shoot like high 40s or even 40s at all. From 3, it opens the paint up for Derek Culver and Oscar Tshiebwe to go out there and just control the boards, because they can't be stopped on the glass one-on-one. And this is like Richmond. I watched Richmond play against UNI, who was without AJ Green. So you would think, oh, Richmond, you got this. This should be an easy game. They struggled with that one. Nathan Kao struggled in that game. I was excited to see Burton play against the Mountaineers because Burton had a really good game. Last game against UNI, played really bigger than what he was. And I mean, he played well, but it just lets you know the difference. And he even had 10 boards. He had a double-double, but it was just like Culver barely played in the game, and he had a double-double, and Burton played all. It was a little different at levels. Like, and not to mention when West Virginia started making shots, it was tough. It was tough to watch.
A couple things about Tyler Burton. One, like he had a couple of like seriously audacious dunk attempts, and it reminded me a little bit of. Do you remember the Kansas game in 2018 when they played at your place?
And my guy is waiting on him.
Sagaba Keyontae.
Yeah, big Sags.
And like Kansas tried to dunk on him like 5 or 6 times, and he just every single time he swatted him, man. Every single time he caught him right at the top. It was it was unbelievable. And it reminded me of like Tyler Burton trying to dunk on West Virginia today. Reminded me of that because he was audacious. You got to give him credit. Like you got to have some stones to go in there and try to dunk on someone like that. But it didn't work out too well for him. Another note that I think is important to point out here: West Virginia actually lost the Battle of the Glass. Like,
yes,
part of it is because you can't get offensive rebounds if you make every fucking shot.
Exactly.
But like that, Richmond beat them up on the glass, man. And it's
offensive boards too. Offensive boards too.
But in all seriousness, I really wanted to touch on something that you said because you made the comparison to Iowa and how like the shooting creates the space. Yeah. To me, it's like it's the threat of the shooting. It's not just the fact that you make the shots, but the threat that you can make those shots. Right? We talked about the gravity that Luka Garza has and how it didn't necessarily matter against North Carolina that he was kind of ineffective. It was the fact that he existed on the floor and people had to be cognizant of where he was. Well, if Deuce McBride is going to be making jumpers the way he was making jumpers, and if Taz Sherman and Shaw McNeil are going to be making jumpers the way they were making jumpers, like defenses have to be cognizant of that. And if you're cognizant of that, that creates all kinds of space for Big Sheeb and Derek Culver and Osaboyan and all these other big dudes that they got. So like it's the threat of the shot. And last thing, and then I'll let you finish up on your mountain. I want to give a shout out to Jordan McCabe because I will never not laugh whenever he gets on the floor. Because you got West Virginia and their entire program identity is we're going to be bigger than you. We're going to be tougher than you. We're going to be more physical than you. We're going to be scarier than you. We're going to punch you in the face every single time you try to score on us. We're going to get out and overplay in passing lanes. You are not going to be able to run your offense against us. And oh yeah, by the way, we got this kid that looks like a YouTuber coming out here playing with us.
And guess what? And he somehow finds a way to like leave his stamp on the game somewhere. Like Jordan is and he's a unique player in our team, bro. And it's funny, like just seeing him from a younger age and watching him play. And I was excited to meet him because I was like, I've seen this kid before. And he goes to our school and I watch him play. And obviously he doesn't look like he fits the mold of our team at all. Like by watching him, it's like, all right, he stands out. But
hey man, he looks like he should be doing workout videos on Instagram with T-Jazz.
But shut up. Anyway, what I will say about Jordan McCabe, he is by far the hardest worker on the team. The guy is in the gym before and after, working on his shot, working on his ball handling, reading and watching film and making sure he knows where he needs to be in due time. Every flower blooms at a certain time. I'm pulling for Jordan McCabe this season. I think
and he made a couple of big shots today. Like he started that run.
He started that run. Knocked down 2 threes. He ended up coming out for a quick second, and then it ended up being a longer second because Deuce McBride went out there and was just that unique player that you see. So shout out to the West Virginia Mountaineers. Those guys are beautiful. That's a great play. I told you I got an extra shirt for you over here. I'll send it to you. Don't worry about it.
That's actually a perfect segue, that West Virginia shirt. So
yeah, man.
Let me tell you a little bit about Home Field Apparel.
Please do.
Home Field Apparel is an officially licensed and independently owned collegiate apparel company. They sell college t-shirts, college basketball team t-shirts. I got one on right here for my UConn Huskies. And what they do is they go through and they mine all of the old logos and all of the throwback gear and all of the stuff that you saw in like the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, all of those, like your favorite shorts of your favorite team from back in the day. They have all of that stuff. They have all of that gear. And they repurpose it. They take these designs, they take these logos, and they turn them into these awesome t-shirts. And the gear itself, like, look, the logos, everything, the stuff that you get on the t-shirt, the designs, they're just great. But the important thing about a t-shirt goes beyond just what you see on the shirt itself. It's the neck. Does the neck get too loose? And look at this. Look at that neck. Look at that neck. It's perfect. It's nice and tight right there, right? The sleeves. Are the sleeves like kind of nice and tight enough just right there on your t-shirt, right? When you throw them in the washing machine and you throw them in the dryer, like, does the middle, like the waistband part, get all stretched out? It's perfect. Like, it's exactly what you want out of the t-shirt. They're comfortable, they're light, they're breathable. And oh, by the way, this is my lucky t-shirt. I've won like 6 bets in a row while wearing this t-shirt. So not only do you get great gear at an affordable price, but you might win a couple bets if you buy their stuff. So go to homefieldapparel.com, use the promo code FIELD-OF68, and you get 20% off your first purchase. And look, they don't have West Virginia gear up yet.
I know. I messaged them and he said, I know, we're working on it. I was like, all right, hurry up.
So it's important. If you are like Deshaun and you want to be able to get West Virginia gear from Home Field Apparel, and trust me, you do, then what you need to do is you need to go and tweet at them. It's Home Field Apparel. There's no E in apparel. It's Home Field, APPARL. Hopefully I spelled that right. Home Field Apparel, no E in apparel. And if you tweet at them and say, hey, make us West Virginia gear, I promise you, they'll at least recognize that you sent them tweets. I'm not going to guarantee that they'll make the gear for you, but the best way to convince them that they need to make West Virginia gear is to have as many people as possible tell them that they would buy that West Virginia gear, because it's a business. If they know that there's a demand for it, then they're going to create it so they can sell it and make money off of it. Brilliant ideas. Look at that, right? So yeah, homefieldapparel.com, Field-of-68, 20% off your first purchase. Deshaun, are you ready for my second overreaction?
Talk to me. It can't be as bad as the first one, because I can't believe you were surprised that we could shoot like this and possibly win a national championship. So I'm shocked you even got there so late.
All right, so here's my take. Cade Cunningham is the best non-Zion prospect that we've seen in college basketball since Anthony Davis.
All right, so good. You put a nice little bottom AD starting from there, Zion top. You know what? I can't argue with that. I feel like that's pretty solid. I got a chance to watch that game. It was a ugly one, and for Cade, I'm talking about.
He didn't play well against the Wichita State. Like, that's the thing. He did not play well.
He did not play well. But you want to know something that's interesting to me about him is that, you know, as a player, I guess, like, if I was a coach, at least, or if I was a scout or somebody watching Cade to make a decision on whether or not, you know, he could play the next level or not, you want to check off boxes on a player. It's like, all right, cool. Is he strong attacking the basket? Can he shoot? Can he control the offense? Can he run a team? How is he off the court? So you want to check off all these boxes on Cade. You can definitely check off not being afraid to take on the challenge and take on a big moment. Like, he kept the ball to make sure he got the last shot for his team, and step back, contested, very good, very well defended, and knocked down the shot. You check that off. Him showing you that he's a big playmaker and he can finish a game. He can close a game. That was it was impressive, being that he had good games against Oral Roberts and he beat a Marquette team who upset a Wisconsin team. Like, him and his teammates, excuse me, not just him. So Oklahoma State has. So, he has a lot of boxes to check out, being that Oklahoma State won't be playing any post season stuff, really. But
well, actually, technically, they're not. So I had a conversation with Mike Boynton about this, because it's a whole thing. Like, Joel already was going crazy on Twitter the other day, and basically, like, was tweeting about how, like, he can't have Oklahoma State in the bracket because they're not eligible, whatever. So here's the deal. Since they're still going through the appeal process,
yes,
Oklahoma State, as of today, is still eligible for the tournament. And if this appeal process goes past a certain point, they are going to be able to play in the tournament. Now, no one expects it to, no one really knows how long it's going to go, but the schedule that the NCAA is supposed to follow says that the appeal should be up before the start of the NCAA tournament. But as of today, Oklahoma State is eligible for the tournament. Like if the tournament started today, they would be able to play in it. And they would be ineligible for the next NCAA tournament. But they could also still win the appeal. I don't think that it's all that likely because the basis of their appeal is like, come on, you punish us too hard. But with what happened with Alabama, like they do have some hope because Alabama basically did the same thing. But it was an associate AD that did what the assistant coach at Alabama. It was an associate AD that was helping facilitate payments for players, while at Oklahoma State it was an assistant coach. Alabama didn't get a 1-year postseason ban. Oklahoma State did. We'll see if that ends up being able to work. But yeah, to your point, as of today, they are eligible for the tournament. So look, I know you're a Big 12 guy, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. We need Cade Cunningham in this NCAA.
Yeah,
tournament.
we need them in the NCAA tournament, and we need him there at 18 points a game, 5 boards, like a little next to 4 assists a game. He's shooting 47 from 3. Like he does a little bit of everything, and he's good at it too. And he doesn't play outside of his game. He doesn't like let people speed him up. He doesn't let people bully him because it's very hard to do that at 220. Like the guy is a very, very, very good talent. So you're not too far off on that one. That wasn't an overreaction. That was it's pretty solid. There's been some good players, and this is not to say that there haven't been any good players in college since Anthony Davis and in between Zion, but these people are saying that he's supposed to be the number 1 pick for next year, and I can't see them being wrong. I mean, he's proven it, and he's keeping a team like Oklahoma State in the loop.
Yep. So there's 2 things I want to point out about him. Like the numbers kind of speak for themselves, and we all saw the game-winning jumper. But 2 possessions before that, there was a play that I thought really stood out as much as anything. So someone on Wichita State drives, right, and he's got the weak side corner. So he's able to come over, and the threat of him blocking a shot at the rim, which he had done earlier in the game, forced Tariq Gilbert to kick the ball out to the corner. So he is able to close out, run that shooter off of the three-point
line. Yeah.
But he slides, right? He gets low and he slides. He cuts the guy tries to drive right. He cuts him off. The guy crosses over. He cuts him off again. The guy goes up and tries to shoot over him. He walls up, doesn't foul, forces a miss, grabs the defensive rebound, goes the other way, calls for a drag screen in transition, right? Comes off the screen, snakes it, beats the big man's defender, goes into the lane, draws the help, kicks it off to the guy at the dunk spot for an and 1 dunk while avoiding the charge. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like that, he just did everything right there that you need a player of his size to be able to do in the NBA. He helped at the rim. He ran a guy off the 3-point line. He stayed in front of him. He slid his feet. He walled up. He didn't foul. Got a defensive rebound. Went the other way. Came off of a ball screen. Created. Beat the help defender and laid it off to somebody for a layup. Right.
That's what you want. That's what you want your guards to do. Period. That's not what you expect from your 6'8" guy. You don't expect it, but the fact that he can sit there and do that it's what you get from a number 1 pick, and that is a good point you made. So
and the other thing is that the skill that he has, that he does the best, like the reason why I'm so high on him as a player is because of the ability that he has as a passer to manipulate defenses and move people around with his eyes and do things off of ball screens and this, that, and the third. Well, he hasn't really been able to show it because Oklahoma State as a team is shooting 32% from 3.
Yeah.
And when you don't have those shooters, those guys that can make those shots, then you can kind of help off, and he kind of runs into a crowded paint. And it's like, okay, well, I can't really move the defense around because if I throw this pass here, like he's open because that guy can't shoot. So we haven't seen what his passing, like the full range of his passing quite yet. So
I was worried about that too. I thought that Likely would be a little bit more help. I thought Flavors would shoot the ball a little bit better, the transfer. Mm-hmm. He hasn't really had as much consistency from the group, but I mean, like I said, it's early. Assuming it's not easy to just transfer in and just pick up right where you left off from your previous school. and these guys had good records at their previous school. Like they did pretty well. So I mean, in due time, and I'm sure those assist numbers will fly up, and I'm sure his rebounds he's only getting more and more aggressive on the glass too. So I'm just excited to see what he looks like towards the end of the season.
Yeah, he's just a super talented kid, and I really do think that he's special. I'll tell you this much. I think that I would take him number 1 in this year's draft. Like without question, it wouldn't really be a conversation for me.
Yeah.
But after seeing Evan Mobley play and knowing how good guys like Jalen Green are, like I do think that there is a real world and like an actual world where he doesn't go number 1 in this year's draft, which should tell you how good the top of this year's draft is that there's even a conversation about like whether or not you should take Cade Cunningham with the number 1 overall pick. All right. This isn't really an overreaction. I kind of want to know like your take on this. Missouri beat Illinois at home in the bragging rights game.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, are you more impressed with what Missouri was able to do, or are you more worried about this Illinois team, top 10 team, losing on the road by 3 points in a rivalry game?
I would just celebrate Missouri more. I hope Illinois realized like what happened. I mean, to me, it just kind of seemed like Miz just came out there and was aggressive and punched him in the mouth early, and Illinois reacted, and it led to foul trouble. And because of those fouls, the guy, like they never got into the game the way they wanted to. I mean, it kept them from running, it kept them from getting out and doing the things they needed to do. And not to mention, like, besides DeSumo and Coburn, no one else really came into play. I mean, Corbello as well, but Miller, Williams, Frazier, they weren't their normal selves. So, you know, I wasn't surprised that Illinois lost the game. I'd hope they would, you know, continue to do what they've been doing, but I was surprised they lost when I saw how aggressive Missouri was when they came out to. Like, they came out to play. They had Xavier Pinson played well. Drew Smith played really well. So, like, and they had Drew Smith on Donsumo to annoy him, and it worked from time to time. It didn't really, I mean, how much could it work when my guy has 36? But, like, it worked enough to the point where he had to, like, feel like he had to take over the game because the help wasn't there from Miller. The help wasn't there from Frazier like it was in previous games. So, yeah,
I think you're exactly right. Like, it's the fact that they didn't really get the help from the supporting cat. Like, if you get 36 from Io, you should never be losing.
Never losing. Exactly.
Should never be losing. So that was definitely a concern for me. I was also worried about how easy it was for Missouri's guards to be able to kind of play off the bounce and get in the lane. It's not a secret, right? Like, Illinois struggles in ball screens. Kofi Coburn is not very fast.
Exactly.
Georgie Benahanishvili, I hope I got that name right.
That was way better than what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Benahanishvili is a lot harder to say than Butler.
Night and day.
Yeah, but like the way that those guards were able to get the penetration and get in the paint was definitely a concern for me. Like, if Illinois is going to be as good as we want them to be, they have to be better defense. Like, there's no excuse to give up 81 points in a game where, you know, they forced 18 turnovers and they held Missouri to 5 of 21 shooting, and they gave up 81 points. Like that. Yeah. That's not something that should be happening in that situation. So that's definitely a red flag for me.
Besides the shooting, like, they went 3 for 13, I guess, from the three, but they shot, like, they missed a ton of free throws. And a good bit of them, which I mean, he's getting to the line, and he got to the line, I would say, like 12 or 13 times, but like, the rest of the guys can't go 50% from the line. Like, and that 50% is they lost by like 3. So, like, they missed 11 free throws, I think. Yeah, 11 free throws. So, like, their half court defense, that's something they need to work on. I remember I was talking about that when they had to go play Baylor. It's like, you know, if Baylor doesn't get back in transition defense, it'll be Illinois. If Illinois doesn't stop Baylor in the half court, then Baylor will win that game. So, and you know, that was part of their big comeback, is Baylor kind of, I won't say abused them, but they took advantage of them pretty well within the half court. And we saw something similar to that, not as Baylor-esque, but they definitely abused in the ball screen and in the half court.
Yeah, I went back and I rewatched the Baylor game for something I did last week. And what Scott Drew did was he basically ran ball screens on everybody, single possession, like every single one. So if Scott Drew has decided that the way to beat Illinois is to run ball screens, like, yeah, okay, you know what? That's probably the way to beat them, because Scott Drew has proven to be a pretty sharp basketball coach.
Most definitely.
Over the years. So I mean, look, I'm still in on Illinois as a potential Big Ten title contender. And like, look, we definitely have a question about that. We asked people on Twitter for questions, and we have one that we're going to answer. That's a similar question to that one. But yeah, it's definitely a concern for them. But shout out to Missouri, man. Like, I know we're talking about Illinois here, but we got to give them their credit. We got to give them their flowers. They went out and they beat a top 10 team in a rivalry game. Like, it don't get better than that.
Yeah, and the coach did a good job, man. I mean, shit, he stuck to the scout report, and it showed, bro. Like, his team literally attacked those guards. It made it very difficult for Coburn and Georgie to even stay on the floor at times. So,
actually, that actually brings up a good point. Missouri's old as hell. I think they got 4 starters and a redshirt junior in their starting lineup. Like, they are as old as any team in the country. And I think part of their early success is because they have so much continuity, right? Like, we're seeing younger teams like Kentucky, who we can kind of transition this conversation into, really struggling, like Duke as well, really struggling because they have all of these new pieces and they don't get to have the kind of normal preseason, normal early season games to figure out what they're going to run, how they're going to run it, what the rotations are, how the hell you're going to survive playing Division I high major college basketball. And Missouri's got all those guys. Like, they're basically running the same shit that they ran last year. Like, none of this stuff changed. So I think that there is something to that. And Missouri is certainly an example. And shout out to Konzo Martin. Like, every time I've dealt with him, every time I've had a conversation with him, like, Konzo's always just been a great dude. He's got the deepest voice of anyone that I think I've ever talked to. Like, he's an intimidating presence, but I want, after the way that things ended for him at Tennessee, I do want to see good things happen for Konzo. Like, he's a good guy. I don't know if he's the greatest college basketball coach, but he got to win. He got to win the rivalry game,
especially against a really good team.
Yeah, so he's the greatest for the day. Shout out to Konzo Martin. All right, I mean, we might as well transition straight into Kentucky. They were down by 20, I think it was 24 in the first half to Notre Dame. They ended up losing by 1 on a missed jumper by Olivier Sarr.
Yeah.
What do you got here, man? It's a mess for Coach Cal right now.
The only 3 things I could think of when I was like watching Kentucky play, and it made me think of their previous games, were their shot selection, their turnovers, and their defense. Like, okay, they play Morehead State, they get 18 assists and 15 turnovers. So that's like probably the most assists they've had all year. And then after that, they get 5 assists and 21 turnovers against Richmond. Then they get 8 assists and 16 turnovers against Kansas. And then 16 and 21 against Georgia Tech. And then they have their game against Notre Dame where they did okay, but they still had a ton of turnovers. But they don't force teams to turn the ball over either. Like, everyone besides Morehead State in Notre Dame, but Notre Dame won the game. But the only game that they won with Morehead State, everyone has been around 11 turnovers and down. So for them to just turn the ball over as much as they do, like, they're not going to win games. For them to shoot the way they've been shooting from 3 from the perimeter will not win them games. They had a game against Richmond. They shot 0 for 10. Now, all right, cool. You can have a bad shooting game. Like, they had 2 decent ones against a team they were supposed to beat, and they had one against Georgia Tech, but that's only because Clark and Boston shot the ball better than they've shot the rest of the other games, because they've shot like 14% from 3 and like 20% from 3. So shot selection, defense, and making other teams turn the ball over, kind of like they did in the second half of this past game. The second half, they came out there and ran. They used their athleticism. They got the ball to Sarr from time to time so he could get some baskets, of course. But for the most part, they ran and then made them turn the ball over. And because they had 16 turnovers, a lot of them late in the game, they were able to go in this run. Like, that should be what Cal should look at, those turnovers, making people turn the ball over, because they're going to turn it over because they're young. but at least having those same young guys that you have not coast on defense and make them, be aggressive on the defensive end so you can get some turnovers and try to nullify what you got going there, because it's not going to happen.
So I honestly still don't think that they are that far away from I don't think they're ever going to be top 10 good, but I don't think they're that far away from being like a top 20 to top 25 basketball team. And that's because I really do think so much of their issue right now is like effort and leadership and consistency. Like, it does not look at all like they are connected out there on the floor, especially in that first half. In the second half, they were flying around. They were forcing turnovers. They were kind of saying like, look, we are so much more athletic than you and so much longer than you. You are not going to run anything against us offensively. And they kind of had that, like, I mean, excuse me for cursing, but they kind of had like that, fuck you, you ain't scoring mindset.
Exactly.
And they did not have that in the first. Like, they looked like they were scared in the first half. They were like, oh man,
here we go again. Here we go again. Exactly. Well, you can see it.
I can't believe this is happening. Woe is me. We came to Kentucky to win. My life sucks. Blah, blah. Like that. They just, their heads hung. Where in the second half, they were kind of like, all right, fuck you. We're going to go get this. And we need more of that FU mindset out of Kentucky. And I think they can get there. Like, so to me, again, so much of the, like, what's going on there is just, you don't have that kind of connectiveness and the continuity and like the guys that understand where each other are going to be or who's going to pick you up or, okay, he drives this way, so I got to be there when he drives because I know that's where he's going to be able to pass, or, I can risk for the steal because I know that I'm going to have this help behind me because this guy's been drilled on the whatever. Like, it's just not quite there, but I don't think it's that far away because we saw what happened in the second half when they almost came all the way back. And look, if Olivier Sarr makes that shot at the end of the game, do you know what we're having for a conversation here? We're probably saying like, look, Kentucky won this game. They played horribly for a half, but they outscored an ACC team by 23 points in the second half and won. Yeah. So like, I don't feel like the conversation that we should be having is that drastically different because one guy that shot 11 for 16 happened to miss a 15-footer that he hit five times earlier in that game. Yeah. So, yes, the point guard spot it's a disaster right now. I don't think that Terrence Clark is the perfect answer. I do think he's a better fit than Devin Askew right now. Like, that's not it's not a shot at Askew. He's a 17-year-old being asked to be a starting point guard in the SEC. Like, that shit is hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's hard. Every team he's played is good. Like, every team he's played so far, it's been guys that are 5 years older than him, 6 years older than him. That's hard to do.
But that's going to be the issue, though. Like, just like you said, that not having that continuity, like having an upperclassman at those positions hurts any team. Like it's just the way it works. So these guys, if they're not going to be there mentally, when I say mentally, not be there mentally, I mean, if they're not going to have a mature mindset as far as the basketball game and know these things and know how to play in certain scenarios, then they have to be there with their energy and their effort. So those same turnovers that they had in the first half against Notre Dame and the way they played, like, you got to expect that they're going to have some of that in the second half, but that energy and that effort have to be there. Like, you can't be the young team that's too cool to work hard. You want to shoot cool shots and shoot tough shots and then not defend anybody. Like, if you're going to be this team that we expect them to be, which is a top 25 team, they have to go out there and bring the effort at least defensively so they can force some turnovers and do the things they're supposed to do so they can, win these games, because they're not far off of most of these games. You just shoot so many bad shots sometimes it catches you, it catches you in the foot.
Yep. All right. I do have a guest. Hold on one second.
No worries. Oh, love.
We do have a guest here on the podcast. Maddie, say hi. Hi. All right. So since we do have a guest, we're going to bring in the questions portion of the programming here. So we're going to start. Oh, you're okay. We're going to start with this question from Boxcar Baz. Did you see Kentucky starting this slowly? And I'll start you off with the question. Say bye-bye. That was fun. We had a special guest on the podcast today. Bye-bye. We're leaving all that in. We're leaving.
Why not? Why not? It's a dad show.
It's a dad cast, and we talk ball, but it's the dad cast first and foremost. So, did you see Kentucky starting this slowly? Personally, and I'll let you answer after this. I saw them starting slowly. I did not think that it was going to be to this degree because I thought that I thought we were going to see more of what we saw in the second half against Notre Dame. But yes, I fully expected them to start slowly this year.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect them to start as slow. Just not factoring the fact that I didn't factor in that they would not be playing as many games as they normally would. That wasn't even in my thought process initially. Then when you watch the first couple games, you're like, yeah, you can see how much a scrimmage game is missed. Like you can see these mistakes that I had freshman mistakes. You can see them all just happening in the court.
You had freshman mistakes?
It's so rare. It's rare. It's rare. I played for Beeline. I was a very smart guy, so I kind of just I did my job. I sat in the corner. It was beautiful.
By the way, I don't know if you saw it, but we on the network we have the Go Blue with Stu podcast. Stu Douglas, former Michigan player.
Yeah.
He had John Beeline the other day, and he told a story that it's Stu's claim to fame that when Beeline first called Anthony Davis, like before AD blew up and became like the number one prospect in the country, he was just some up and coming kid in Chicago. So Beeline got on the phone with him and he was like, "Hey, have you ever watched Michigan basketball before?" And Anthony Davis was like, "Oh yeah, coach, I love watching Michigan play. I love Stu Douglas. Me and my friends have a saying. You know what you got to do? Give the ball to Stu." So Stu Douglas. So Anthony Davis knows who Stu Douglas is, which is pretty awesome if you think about it.
That's awesome for Stu. So shout out to that, yeah.
Shout out to Stu Douglas. All right. So the next question came from Eric Diener. Thoughts on the Big Ten? Is Iowa the clear favorite for you right now? And for me, I would not call them the clear favorite. I do think at this point that they probably are the favorite, just because they're so much better offensively than what I thought they would be. And it's almost to a point where I'm not necessarily worried about what they'll be on the defensive end of the floor, although that's still a concern. But I still think that Illinois can win it. I still think that Michigan State can win it. Not so much on Wisconsin, but I do think that once we see Iowa going up against teams that are a little bit better when it comes to playing off the dribble, and that matchup with them a little bit better, Illinois, that it could become something of a problem. But I think you have to call them the favorite at this point, right?
Actually, I got them tied right now with the favorite between them and Michigan State, who I ragged on so bad early on. Michigan State has been good, so I'm not worried about Illinois. Illinois has been great. They dropped the ball a couple times, and I wouldn't even say one of those times is a drop ball. They played against one of the best teams in college basketball in Baylor. So that's not a drop ball. They held their own against Baylor. If it's not Michigan State, it's going to be Illinois to win the Big Ten to me. I like you brought up a second ago, I just don't foresee Iowa just stopping that run. Iowa isn't the greatest defensive team in the half court. So the run and gun thing, if they're not knocking down threes, and those long threes are for long rebounds, which Illinois guards do a ton of rebounds. I feel like Illinois gang rebounds. Maybe Coburn rebounds a big bit, and Georgie rebounds a big bit, but the guards do a ton of the rebounds as well. So those threes are going to be long rebounds for guards, and they're going to be pushing the ball down their throat. So I got Illinois as a favorite to win the Big Ten. I
still got Illinois. Yeah. Did you see Luka Garza's second half against Iowa State?
No, I did not actually.
That he went full Miles McBride. He played 17 minutes against Iowa State, scored 34 points, was 13 or 14 from the floor, hit 6 straight threes. They were running Luka Garza off of pin downs and little in screens on out of bounds plays, and he was catching shit. He was 1-2 into threes and wet. He wasn't rattling them home or anything.
Yeah, I did not see this.
But the net. Oh, it's
I read the stat line and I just immediately assumed all right, cool. He just must have just punished them in the block and there was nothing they could do with him. Six threes. 6 threes.
I'm telling you, look, go hit up someone on Hugstaff and be like, give me your synergy. Give me your synergy login. I need to watch the second half here. And go watch Luka's second half. It was unreal. All right. We got 2 more questions and we're going to get out of here. The first one is it's from Rob Dauster is asking this question. How about those Volunteers? 2-0, baby. 2-0.
This is your
Not
35
bad,
to
right?
1. This is your 35 to
35
1.
to 1, baby.
That's your
35
35 to 1 to win the national championship. I can't argue. They got Kim English on the staff. I'm gonna defer to you about Tennessee.
They can guard, man. They can lock you up. Keyontae Johnson is an unbelievable defender. Like, he is Isaac Okoro levels, I think,
Really?
on the defensive end of the floor. Like, you can't screen him. You can't go by him off the dribble. He's athletic enough to block people at the rim. He moves his feet. He's strong. He's long. He can guard ones. He can guard threes. Like, he's an absolute monster. Now, the thing about Okoro is he was a little bit bigger, so maybe that was like a bad comparison. But just like the fact that Keon is just, you put him on anyone and that person's out of the game. Now the offense is going to come a little bit, and like for Tennessee as a whole, like it ain't pretty. Like it ain't pretty, but they look very much like a team that's had like 5 practices, because they've really only had like 5 practices.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
So I want to see your face as I read the name of the person that I'm going to ask this question for. It's from Coach Chris Hopkins. Okay,
Hop is a jerk.
So he said,
"That's my guy."
This is his question: how excited was Deshaun when Coach Hugs told him and his teammates that West Virginia was going to wear Jordans? And then did it happen or not?
It didn't happen. He was the only one that had Jordan stuff. It sucked. He made sure he let us know, like, the way we played, he's going to be the only person wearing Jordan.
Tell the story. Tell the story.
Here you go. So basically, Coach Huggins just signed, and he's coming to West Virginia. We just lost our coach, and we're sitting there, and he shows up, and he's wearing this full Jordan suit. So the players are all talking to each other, like, "Oh, do you think we're going to be Jordan this year?" Like, we hadn't played a game, like, or just like, "You think we're going to wear Jordan?" Like, yeah, everybody's excited. So, I asked him, I was like, "Hey, Coach, you think, we'll wear Jordan this year?" He goes, "Yeah, we'll see how everything works out. If you guys come out and play, you'll be a Jordan team." And we're like, "All right, cool." So I think, like, we came out and we looked absolutely terrible. He walks in at halftime and goes, "You think you guys are wearing Jordan?" Fuck no. Like, laid into us. So he's like, you'll never wear Jordan.
Oh man.
He's a motivator, to say the least.
Did you ever get Jordans? You never got
Jordans? I got my own pair. not through the West Virginia University program. We gotta pay your dues. We're still making strides as a program to get Jordan. Maybe Jordan will watch the show and then donate some Jordans to the program.
Well, I'll tell you this much, man. If you don't get Jordans, at the very least, you might be able to get home field apparel. So
very much so.
Deshaun, it's a pleasure. Homefieldapparel.com, Field of 68 promo code, get 20% off, or download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code FIELD68. There's no of in that promo code. It's FIELD68. And you'll be able to get a $1 bet that pays off $100 on any team in one of their featured games this week. We will see you guys again next week. Deshaun, always a pleasure, my man.
Always a pleasure.